you're supposed to like it or not. Here's what the definition of feminism is. Equal opportunity. Equal pay for equal work. Anybody got a problem with that? There you go. Now, if I walk into a place and I say Miss or I say Mrs., you might make some assumptions about me. And I don't want you to hire me because I'm married or because I'm not married. I am a person who can do the job. So, the feminist movement adopted the term Ms. I forget exactly the origin of it. Go to Wikipedia and look it up. I'm probably going to have it in the book. MS with a dot. There's a magazine called Ms. Magazine, and on the first issue of Ms. Magazine in 1972 was, I know you know, no, Wonder Woman actually, but 1977, Ms. Marvel appeared, and that was Carol Danvers, and in that very issue, she got a job from J. Jonah Jameson as editor of the J. Jonah Jameson Publishing Empire's Woman Magazine. And he said, I want recipes, diet tips. How ironic, you want both recipes and diet tips? Fashions. And she's like, no, I want how to write a resume. I want stuff for women who are working and professionals and doing everything that a man can do. So she got the job, $30,000 a year. That was a lot in 1977. But she was schizophrenic. She would have memory blackouts. And during those periods, Ms. Marvel would appear. But Ms. Marvel had no memory of growing up or who she was. And this, said Jerry Conway, was symbolic of the dichotomy of the feminist experience as women try to figure out how to balance their lives between being a woman and being an equal, blah, blah, blah. Conway, that's bullshit, said the letter column. 2 issues later, what's his name, Chris Claremont took it over, eventually merged the 2 personalities so that there is no longer this whole schizophrenia thing. Ms. Marvel was positioned as a feminist superhero very specifically, and despite the fact that her costume looked like a bathing suit with her belly button showing. So she was Ms. Marvel for a great number of years. In the meantime, 1986 was the year that changed comics, and it all started with Marvel Man, who was the British ripoff of Captain Marvel, created because there were no more Captain Marvel comics in 1953. I won't go into that, but let's just say that, long story short, that led to, who knows about the Crisis on Infinite Earths in DC? Most of you? Okay, if you know, long story short, they changed the entire universe, and that was when Roy Thomas made Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, have Billy Batson's brain. So when he said Shazam, he said, cool, I'm like Schwarzenegger here, it being 1986 after all. And Schwarzenegger was still impressive. And that personality of Captain Marvel as being a young boy stuck, and has stuck, and it has been big as a superhero. And everybody knows the Tom Hanks movie Big? Okay, there was actually one writer who, when someone said, it's big with superheroes, they didn't write big as a title. And they thought he just meant, this movie's going to be big with superheroes. No, it's big with superheroes. That was very amusing. So you're ahead of that particular clickbait writer. Okay, there you go. All right, I was trying to get a smile out of you there. Okay, all right. So that's what's been happening with the current Captain Marvel, but still there's this whole, the current original Captain Marvel, confusing, yes. But still there was this whole name thing. And finally, Dan Didio came up with this brilliant idea. You remember how in the mid-00s, every year was another company-wide crossover, the Infinite Crisis, the Crisis of Infinite Crises, and this and that, and 52, countdown, up, whatever, sideways. And somewhere in there, the wizard Shazam died, again. Long story. So, the original Captain Marvel had to take his place up on the Rock of Eternity to be the Chief of Magic. They had done stuff with the character by then, and so somebody else had to take, and now he was called Lord Marvel up there, so somebody else had to do the job of being the magic hero on Earth. And so that was Freddie Freeman, and he lost all his powers, so he had to go through, who saw the 12-issue series, Trials of Shazam? Whoa. Fortunately, it's collected in 2 volumes now. It's not actually as bad as its rep. It's actually pretty good. But the issue number 12 came out like 9 months after issue number 11. But at the end of it, he got all these powers here. Actually, I think Atlas was replaced by somebody else, but you get the idea. And however, now his name was Shazam. How could he say his name then without changing Well, Captain Marvel Jr. actually had that problem because Captain Marvel Jr. would say the magic word Captain Marvel to transform. I didn't have time to go into that. It's in the books. So, but it didn't stick. He went back to being Captain Marvel. Well, he went to being Captain Marvel, but I remember talking to Dan Didio about this. I came up to him at a convention. He said, "At last we have a superhero with the same name as the title of the book." It's like, okay, calm down. All right, and so then the New 52 came. And everybody knows that everything in the New 52 was different from everything else that ever came before and separate from everything else that came before in the DC universe, right? Okay, so they took this character and Jeff Johns wrote up a very interesting interpretation of the concept of an orphan boy with a magic word who can turn into a superhero. And the new superhero's name is Shazam. And also, by the way, he's a snark. Instead of a waif selling papers on the side of the street, he is a snarky kid getting kicked out of foster homes left and right. Gets adopted by a family with 5 kids. When they all say the magic word together, they all turn into Shazam heroes, each with a different power, just like Bill Parker's original concept. See how I did that? Okay, and how can he say his name and not change? The word, you have to mean it when you say it, just like the light bulb in the joke. In a light bulb in a psychiatrist's office. 3 minutes, thank you. How do you change a light? How many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but he really has to want to change. Okay, well, when Billy Batson says Shazam, he really has to want to change. Heck, he can create a ping pong table by saying the magic word Shazam, and now he can shoot lightning bolts out of his fingers. What? And then they gave him a whole new pantheon, and what? It's all confusing. But the point is, here, now, he's in his own universe. And in the Convergence, we found out that there are actually 52 universes in DC, in the DC universe, and one of them is called Earth 5. And Earth 5 is the same as Earth S, which was the separate universe that they put the original Captain Marvel in because they didn't want him in the same universe as Superman. And S looks an awful lot like a 5, right? Makes perfect sense to me. And that character is the original Captain Marvel, but in the mainstream New 52, the superhero named Shazam is a different character, and the reason I am glad they are doing this is because he's so different, I don't have to worry about how faithful he is to the original Captain Marvel, because his name is not Captain Marvel, his name is Shazam. And by the way, I'm sorry I didn't have time to tell you how Carol Danvers got her superpowers. It just had something to do with an explosion of a V device that sent radiation through Marvel's body, who was trying to shield her, and that turned her into a Kree-superhero, totally retconned in the past year, into her mom being Kree, and blah, 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 and I didn't get a chance to tell you about the rape that she went through, but Carol Danvers is an overcomer. And after the House of M, who remembers the House of M storyline? We're going to close out with this. All right, the House of M. Who remembers the character Scarlet Witch? Okay, the Scarlet Witch is so powerful, she can change the universe. Like as if what we're living in never happened. And she changed it into a universe where mutants were taking over the world. But her friend Carol Danvers was Captain Marvel, the greatest hero in the world. When everything went back to normal, Carol Danvers remembered being the greatest hero in the world and said, if I could do that then, I can do that now. And started overcoming things and overachieving. She would try to be just, what she has to do is just a little bit more than she can, but she's going to do it anyway. She had a tumor in her head, and if she would fly, it would grow, and it would kill her. And even so, to save the world, she flew, and that tumor exploded in her head. And here's how I get it. That's why I'm making a big finish. All right, and who here can remember a time in which you did something that really was the best you that you can be. Come on, think about it. Yep, you got one, you got one. You don't have to tell me, we don't have time. Now, look at this. Look at me now, all right? All of you here are looking at me. All of you here are paying attention to me. You're mostly laughing at my jokes. Have all of you learned a little something that you didn't know before you walked in here? I think I'm being, yep, even the guy in the back row. I think I'm being the best me that I can be. Now all I have to do is figure out how to do that again and do that with everything that I do. And to me, that is the message, and that is the importance of Carol Danvers. And frack all those guys who are saying, SJW propaganda. Find the moment that you can be the best you that you can be. And if you do, you're living up to the promise of Carol Danvers. And those are the two Captain Marvels that are in the movies today.